Subclass 189 and 190 are permanent residency visas. So before you leave your native country, you and your family members will be given a 5-year visa for you to go and reside yourself in Australia. If you apply through subclass 189, you can go and live anywhere in Australia. There are no restrictions. What is the difference between 189 to 190? 190 is called a state sponsorship. As I explained to you earlier, different states in Australia have different requirements, right? So one of these states, you have to pick and choose. So then you apply to that state, saying, this is where I want to go and live. I want to go and live in Perth because my occupation is there. I have done my research. There's A, B, C, and D factors. And then you get the state sponsorship from that particular state, right? Then during the 5 years, you go to live in the state who sponsored you for a minimum of 2 years. That is your obligation. When you live in Australia as a permanent resident for minimum of 4 years, you have the opportunity to apply for the citizenship as well. Then lucky for us, Sri Lanka offers dual citizenship, so you can have the best of both worlds. All right, let's understand what is the skill visa migration process. It is a 5-step process. First one is to understand what is my skill, because you first need to understand what is my skill, because your skill got to be recognized in Australian standards. Because all what they do is they want to make sure whether you are a person that has the right qualifications and the work experience equivalent to a person who's performing the same job in Aussie. That's what it is, right? To do that, they have introduced a thing called a skill list, right? These occupation lists are available on the imi.homeaffairs.gov.au website. There are different set of skills, the medium term, long term, short term, regional, various skill lists are available. When you go to a skill list, it opens up with all the skills and it gives you this information. The list tells you what is the occupation, and then there's an ANSCO code. So every occupation in Australia, they have identified through an ANSCO code, right? So this code is very unique to each occupation, right? If you are, so as an example, say that you are an engineer. So you can be a structural engineer, you can be a civil engineer, or you can be mechanical engineer, so on and so forth. So all of them have different ANSCO codes. Same way in every other occupation as well, right? So different occupations have different ANSCO codes. And then in this list, it tells you what are the visas you are eligible to apply for. Are you able to apply for subclass 189, 190, or subclass 491? Now, I didn't explain you what 491 is all about. 491 is also a 5-year visa, but it's not permanent, it's temporary. So during the 5 years, you got to go and live in the place who gives you the sponsorship for a minimum of 3 years. Then only your visa will get converted to permanent residency. Now, one must be wondering, if I can have the option of this 5-year visa permanent, why should I apply for this temporary visa? That is because when you apply for these visas, ladies and gentlemen, I have gone ahead of myself. These are the states that I spoke to you about. When you are applying for subclass 190 or a 491, you have to get a sponsorship from a state, right? Especially for 491, you have the pathway of getting family sponsorship as well. That is only if the family member is residing in an area that is they're eligible to apply for sponsorship, and your occupation is on a list where the 491 visa can be sponsored. It has to be blood relative and first and second lines. That's all. Others can't sponsor, right? And then, so if one of them are residing in a place, given the opportunity to give you a sponsorship, you can do that. It's very, very important and very, very dangerous when you are going through this family migration, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, I have had my fair share of experience with them. Sometimes that they come and they actually live in an area where they can offer sponsorship, and then you have a very good cordial relationship with them. They said, yes, I'm ready to sponsor you, we can do this. And then halfway through, now these processes, ladies and gentlemen, takes minimum of 12 to 18 months. It could take up to even 24 to 36 months, depends on various reasons, right? That's the one other thing that you got to remember. The migration is a long-term investment. It's not something that you can pack your bags and leave tomorrow. You have to work hard at it and keep your eyes on the prize, we say, to make it happen, right? So one of my clients, right, he went through the process, because when you choose to go through one pathway, you can't just jump in between. So he decided to, all right, I'm going to go through this family sponsorship. Went through the application process. After a year's time, when we have to get the sponsorship, actual sponsorship documents signed from the uncle, he have had a fight with the auntie, and then he said, Putar, my God, my auntie is now having a fight with your parents and I can't do anything, I'm really sorry. At that point, you can't reverse the process, right? So it's very, very important that you have a very open discussion with the uncle, auntie, their children, their dog, to cat, to everyone should know. They have put their hand up to sign up you for the sponsorship, because they can't then do a backflip on it. Yeah, because otherwise your entire time is and the effort is gone for a six. Yeah, do I make sense? Do I make sense? Yes, that's good. All right, let's. So after the state sponsorship, what happens is first we look at the skill, then we identified, okay, I have the skill, right? And how do I know I have the skill? How do I know? So anyone who's working in anywhere can say, okay, I have the skill. I'm an admin manager. I'm a marketing manager, right? Australia has identified about 33 organizations who are capable of assessing anyone's occupation, right? I have in a minute we will get to that area. I'm sure Deirdre will give you a good understanding of what is this skill assessment process, because it's very important when you apply for your skills assessment that you choose the right skill to get assessed. If you chosen the wrong skill, one thing is you might not get the positive outcome. Second thing is your skill might get a skill assessment, but if that skill is not on any of the list that Australia is needed, then you are still back on the waiting period, right? So it's very important that you need to understand what is your skill, what are the skills that are in demand, which state that I want to apply for, and then decide, okay, because sometimes with the work experience and the qualifications you have, you may qualify for more than one occupation. Yeah? All right. So then you lodge your application. So the next stage is you are applying for what we call it the skills select, right? The skills select is where once you have a positive skill assessment, once you have your language skills already available in your hand, and once you get the right documentation for your work experience, you lodge your application to a skill select. Skill select is like a basket where everyone can lodge their documentation into, right? And then once you are there, if they give you a offer, if they select your application, then you are invited to lodge a visa application. Until this point, until the last point, you are not lodging your application into the department. You are preparing yourself to be eligible to get an invitation to be able to apply for an application, right? So it's very important. There's a lot of back-end work that you need to do for you to successfully obtain a visa invitation. This applies to you, this applies to students who go and complete their studies in Australia or anywhere in the world.